You are now listening to Wave a Sound.
Welcome to Versus Mike History. I am your host, Michael History. In episode 107, Joy Charles K joins the podcast to talk about the Black American Heritage flag and the rallying point. We talk about the places the flag has been raised, the process of retaining the rights to its likeness, her relationship with her father, and more. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you choose to listen. Subscribe to our newsletter for brand updates and podcast recommendations, and join our members-only community on Patreon for access to exclusive content. For everything else, go to versusmikehistory.com. Peace, family. Welcome to another episode of Versus Mike History. I'm your host, Mike History, and today we have Joy Charles in the building. Welcome, Miss Charles.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So I want you to go ahead and sort of do your little intro, and then I'll hop right into all the questions and everything I want to know.
Oh, okay. So I am the only daughter, the only child actually, of Melvin Charles, who was one of the designers of the Black American Heritage flag. I grew up with the flag. My father designed it in 1967. He and Gleason Jackson, and unfortunately, Gleason was killed shortly after that. And my father continued the work of the flag basically until he became elderly. And so in 2021, I was being contacted from people all over the world basically about the flag. People had questions, and it was very difficult to get a copy of his memoir, The Rallying Point. And so I decided to get ahead of, or tried to get ahead of what was going on, and started a website and, got the digital platform together and had the book republished. And since then, people have been calling and asking. I've been involved in flag raisings and parades and all kinds of things. And so it's been a very positive journey. I've been talking to lots of people in lots of spaces. I've got some connections down at Howard University. I'm also going to be working with some students at Fisk University. So, the word has been traveling pretty fast and furiously.
All right. That sounds so amazing. And I'm really astonished at everything that you've been able to do to keep the legacy of the flag and your father alive. And it's just so crazy to me because I kind of was introduced to everything back in 2020 when I made a tweet and I spoke about an image that I found online, and the tweet says, "Look at this beautiful flag. Da da da. I can't find any information about it anywhere." And lo and behold, the tweet ended up going viral, or what I would consider viral, and a bunch of people started replying and sending information and saying, "Oh, this is that," and then um, Joy reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm the daughter of the man who designed this flag, and we've been connected since then, and we've been meaning to have this conversation for a while now. So I'm really appreciative of this moment." And one of the things that I usually ask people who are coming on to the podcast is, what are you listening to currently?
What am I listening to
Mm-hmm.
in terms of music?
Music.
Well, I'm also involved in the worship and creative arts ministry at my church.
Okay.
And so right now I am knee deep in Christmas music. Um, My church is a mega church, and so we're doing some concerts coming up. So that's what I'm listening to, as well as I'm in another choir, another community choir. So I'm listening to all kinds of Christmas music from, um, let's see, music that is sung in the language of Zulu to the Messiah, which is Handel's Messiah. So that's what I'm listening to right now. But I listen to all types of music.
All right, sounds good.
Hmm.
All right, let's begin. So, um, I'm curious to know when you began to pick up the um legacy of the flag and began to prepare everything to go out to the public and make the book more accessible and those things. What was that process like? Because I'm sure this wasn't something that was well, I'm not sure if this was something that was really prevalent to you as a child, but I'm sure that when things became more popularized in the more recent time, especially during the pandemic, it might have seemed a little bit overwhelming. So I'm curious to know. Um, yeah, I'm curious to know how you took the process in of moving this forward by yourself.
Um, well, as I said when I started speaking, I started getting messages from everywhere, from Reddit.
Mhm.
Somebody pointed me towards Reddit, and then I started getting emails from people um, just asking questions about the flag. And at that point, I think at that point, I had ordered an extra copy of the book. I have the rallying point somewhere that my father signed and I can't find it. So I said, let me go on Amazon and buy a book. So I guess that was in 2020, might have been 2019. Anyway, so I ordered a book. It cost me maybe $50 to get it. And then a year later in 2021, when I decided to put up the website and do the social media, I wanted to get the book republished. I went on Amazon and the book was $800
Oh, wow.
because there were none left. I saw one for 600, one for 800. So I took the copy that I had and I contracted with a company to get it republished, and which was a pretty long process, honestly. But I knew it had to be done because the book to me um, really explains everything in terms of why the idea came about, to the struggles that they had trying to get people to understand what the flag was and how important it was to them, um, to taking it to the world into different cities. Um, so I started with that, with the website, and then with the book, and things have grown since then.
Mm. What would you say your personal connection to the flag is?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I was a child when it was designed, and it was designed in the basement of my house. Um, so it was so much a part of everything we did. Um, we had a big one in the basement on the wall. My father had, shirts made. We had buttons. He had little flags, and it was his passion. It was truly his passion for many years. I mean, he worked as a set designer, or a display designer. I'm sorry. He did display design for Sam Goody, which is a record company, and then he sold plastics later on. But the flag was everything. So as a kid, it was a big part of who my dad was.
And do you think that its place amongst history now is um do you think that it there is more space for people to come behind Mr. Charles and create more flags? Because I know I've seen other flags such as the Juneteenth flag,
Mhm.
um, and you know I I feel like there aren't enough spaces where we've seen those raised, and I wonder if it is a matter of there needing to be more individuality in terms of designs and representation within Black communities for it to, I don't know, be inclusive. But I feel like there should be more a larger spotlight, and I'm curious to know, why do you think that it's such a tough process to make a flag widely known?
Um, that's a good question. I know my father tried his hardest um, to make the flag known. And I think, it all boils down to timing, to what was happening in society. When they started with it, it was, the, I would say, the end of the civil rights movement.
Mm,
And in 1968, um, Martin Luther King was murdered, and then Malcolm X was murdered. And I feel like there was almost a hush across the nation because people were in mourning.
mm,
And so then we went into the 70s, and that was a different period of time for us as Blacks. Fast forward to now, um, I, I, I feel like now is the time. I think it just wasn't my father's time to make this flag um, uh, a solidified part of our culture for whatever reason. Um, I feel like it's part of my legacy to push it forward because, I mean, it's all it's all happening, unfolding and unfolding without um a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on my part. I mean, what he went through was a lot. um Thankfully, because we're in the digital age, I'm able to get the word out um a lot easier than he was able to do, and to make connections. And it's still hard, because people don't know. But I find that there are a lot of people who connect with me on social media who are so positive about it, who are, buying the flag and taking the message and sending it forward. So I think it's happening now. I feel like I'm beginning to see um, an escalation in terms of people knowing what the flag is and what it represents.
and in terms of notoriety, uh like how do what are other ways you can, um in terms of, well, okay, I'll ask this. I want to reframe the question I was going to ask. um in terms of the imaging, right? Because I'm sure there is a very specific intention in the way everything is placed on this flag.
Yes.
When it comes to licensing the image and,
Hmm.
being able to generate revenue to create more positive programs like surrounding the flag, how do you go about that process?
Um, Very slowly.
Mhm,
I'm in the process of working with a trademark attorney right now. Um, and I am partnered with a company called Blackletics,
mhm,
which is out of Detroit, Michigan. Um, Rodney Watkins is the owner of that company. And so we have an agreement where we work together and we create products that represent the flag. Um, and so, I mean, we'll continue to move forward as, the trademark becomes solidified, and we'll just keep it going. I mean, I wanted to really jump and get ahead of this because I felt like in 2021 it was just all over the place. I was seeing my father's image on TikTok all the time,
Wow.
still do,
Hmm.
from his PBS special. And I really wanted to make sure that the legacy of this flag was being told properly and that his legacy was not forgotten in the creation of this flag. I didn't want to see it one day, being sold by Target or J.C. Penney, just
Right. Right.
with no history behind it, no,
Exactly.
yeah. So that's what I'm working towards.
And that's really why I asked the question, because we get into these situations, especially in the Black community, where our likeness ends up falling out of our hands, and we don't end up being in control of who gets to use it or what it's being purposed for
Hmm.
in general.
Hmm. Absolutely.
But I also want to know, what do you think, or what is the flag's relationship to the government? Because I know that the flag is raised in Massachusetts, in Salem,
Hmm.
Massachusetts. But in terms of getting it raised in other cities and things of that nature, is that process very difficult, or
It is.
getting them to recognize it in general? Talk about that for a little bit.
Sure. Well, in terms of um, Massachusetts, it's the flag has been raised during Black History Month in Springfield, Massachusetts, for the past 35 years.
Okay.
My father started going there back in the 80s, and so that has been the only city that I know of that consistently does a flag raising in conjunction with Black History Month. I've also been working with Salem, Massachusetts, because um, they've got an organization that contacted me about using the flag for what's called Negro Election Day.
Okay.
So I've been working with them. And I was able to get to Linden, New Jersey, which is where I was raised, where the flag was created. If you read the book, um, my father talks about how the city of Linden would not let them raise the flag there. And so this past year, I was able to connect with them. And I've been connecting with other cities. I've been sending emails and hearing from other people. So Black History Month, we should see a lot of other cities raising the flag. Um, so that's the connection. I mean, I haven't contacted the White House yet. That I should probably do while I'm an AKA, and while Kamala
Mm,
Harris is still there, maybe I should contact them. Um, but so far it's been, city by city,
right,
um,
right.
and I have a list of them. Yeah,
And you said that getting them to recognize it was a little bit more difficult.
getting who to recognize it.
Um,
You mean other cities?
yes,
Um, well, I think.
as a sort of a historical thing, like, hey, this is actually a thing, versus, hey, can you just put up my flag?
Um, well, I've been able to make connections with a few other cities, and as the time grows closer, like probably right after Christmas, I'll make connections again
Mhm.
so that we can set up a date and time um, to get the flag raised, particularly in cities here in New Jersey, because this is where the flag was created. Um, but um, But yeah, I've the ones that I've reached out to, they've been pretty receptive, actually.
Okay.
Hmm.
So I'm curious to know this, right? Because this is the Black American Heritage Flag, and currently I feel like we live in a time where there are a lot of different viewpoints in terms of identity and how Black Americans should carry themselves in terms of economic unity, or uh, just in general, Black prosperity and betterment. How do you how do you think um it is, or do you think it is our responsibility as a Black community, or do you think that it is your responsibility rather, sorry about that,
Mm.
to control who gets to stand in front of the flag and speak about a certain message? I know that we want this flag to be all encompassing, but when it comes to people using different type of speech, we've seen that in recent news. Um, how do we stop, you know, these types of things from happening and these images being associated with certain people or certain messages?
Well, this is why I have tried to continue the dialogue online.
Hmm.
And I am constantly, advertising the book because it speaks for itself. This isn't a flag that's going to represent all kinds of different issues. And my father was a veteran, and he created this flag because he thought that we should have a flag that represented who we are as a people. But he was also, um, as I said, a veteran, and he was a member of the U.S. Navy. So he believed in this country. Um, so, as I said, I have been trying to stay in front of the messaging of what this flag stands for. So, I was on a Twitter space a couple weeks ago talking about this very thing, about what the flag is, what it represents, and everybody was very encouraging, and they understood what it is. It doesn't stand for different causes. Because sometimes people want a flag to stand for a specific cause, but no, this stands for us as Black people, as proud Black people, as contributors to the American society.
I like that. And how can other people get involved in contributing to the awareness of the flag?
Um, well, I would love for them to read the book. People don't like to read. People don't like to read. I get it. But that's one way they can get involved. They can always contact me. My contact information is everywhere. We're on every single platform at this point. And, if they want me to come and speak, if they want to do a flag raising, if they want to do a book talk, if they want to do, I don't know, a video, if they want me to talk to kids, I'm open to all of it.
That sounds so amazing. Now, I kind of want to get into a little bit um, more personal question. I'm curious to know what your relationship with your father was like.
Oh, wow. That's funny. Nobody's ever asked me that. So my father and I were very, very close. And then my parents separated when I was 14 years old. And, because he wasn't living in the house, our relationship was not, we were not as close, and I was a teenager. And then, we just went through, I guess, normal, father daughter issues for a while, but he was always in my life. There was never a time when my father wasn't in my life. He walked me down the aisle. He was there for my children. He had relationships with my children and my husband. And before he died, we got very, very close. And
Mm.
so, we went through ups and downs, but he was always, always a part of my life.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Oh, sounds good.
Hmm.
Now let's talk about Miss Joy Charles for a bit. Because we've talked about the flag and we talked about your father. Let's
Okay.
talk about you.
Okay.
Um, let's talk about your background in terms of profession and everything like that, because I'm also curious to know about the woman.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's Joy Charles K. I've been married for 35 years to Brian K., my wonderful husband, who I can't do any of this without him. Um, and I have, two grown children. I went to Rutgers University for undergraduate, and then went to Montclair State for graduate. And I started out after graduate school. I um, I worked for a women's center and I did counseling there. And then I went on to, and I learned to write grants at that point. So then I went on to fundraising and development, and I worked in for several schools and institutions, um, writing grants and raising money. And then more recently, the past 7 years, I've been the executive director of a nonprofit called the Montclair Inn, which is a nonprofit residence for seniors. So my focus has been senior housing for the past 7, almost 8 years.
Awesome. Would you say that people are your passion? What led you to down the path of grant writing, working in education, and now working with the elderly?
Um, I would say, yeah, I'm definitely a people person. I'm a connector. Grant writing and fundraising is really about, taking care of people ultimately. So that has been my focus. I got into working with the elderly, specifically senior housing, because I was a consultant for a nonprofit that provided affordable housing in Montclair, New Jersey, for a while. And the executive director there heard about this position at the Montclair Inn, and I took it because it was part time. And then it grew because it was just demanding more of my time, and I could do so much more for them. So so it became a full time thing.
Hmm,
So yeah.
nice.
Hmm.
Would you say that any of your father's work with the flag and the book inspired what you ended up choosing as your profession?
Um, no, it didn't. No, I have to be honest. No, probably
Right,
more
right.
of what my mother did.
Okay, let's
Um,
let's talk about it.
my mom was she worked for the state of New Jersey, actually for Union County. She was the head of pretrial intervention. She was a probation officer for years, and then she was a social worker at one point, and then she was head of pretrial intervention. So she was really the people person, and working in the trenches. But I would say that my career has helped me to take over my father's mission
Mm,
of spreading the word about this flag, because I'm somebody who is, I'm a people person, I'm a connector. I'm somebody who, I'm pretty savvy in terms of technology. Um, I, I have a lot of connections in the community and, you know, over all over the country. So I feel like my career prepared me to step into these shoes to um, to take the flag to the next level.
mm. And and as you take the flag to the next level, you've spoken about how it's been a journey trying to get it more popularized and noticed, and essentially you're doing the work on your own, and I want to know how that affects you in any way.
Um, hmm. Well, I'm an only child, so of course I'm doing this on my own. Um, I don't know that it's affecting me. Recently, though, because things have been picking up, so I'm thinking I need to hire an intern to
Okay.
help me, with some of the correspondence that I need to do and things like that. So the pace is picking up. So I think that, which is a great thing. It's a great thing because there are things, I have a business mentor out of Rutgers School of Business. And so
Mhm.
I have, a list of things that I need to do. And so the list keeps getting longer and longer. So, I will need, help to move it forward. But yeah.
And how would you like for the legacy of the flag to live on past you?
Wow. I would like it to be, it's funny. I have an aunt, my Aunt Sue, who's 88 years old. And, she was around for everything. She's one of the few people that was around when the flag was being created and through the 60s and 70s. And she always says to me, "Oh, I can't wait till, everybody knows about this flag." And I keep telling her, "Aunt Sue, people do know about the flag." But I think for her and for people of her generation, they want to see it on TV, they
Right,
want to
right,
see it
right.
on
Yeah.
national television. For them, that's
Mhm.
everybody knowing about the flag. And so I guess, my wish, my dream for the flag would be that it would be taught in schools, that it would be part of the curriculum, or
Mhm.
that, part of my one of my goals is to create a curriculum surrounding the rallying point for children. So I would like to see that in schools or in churches, or however history is taught, and that's the way I would like to see it continued. We are going to be part of a documentary well, we're part of it now, but it's being refined. um, it's in connection with Salem United out of Salem, Massachusetts, in conjunction with Negro Election Day and Black American Heritage Flag Day, which is the third Saturday in July up in Massachusetts. So there's an interview with me um, that's a part of that documentary. But I would like to take it even further and do a documentary about the flag itself based on the rallying point. So those are the ways that I would like to see the um, the flag continued, and to have it in museums and in permanent collections around the country.
And that is something that we are on the same page about, because I feel like it's something that is just it's a piece of history. It's a piece of Black history. It's a
Hmm.
work of art, and it should be treated as so.
Yeah.
Um, but Joy Charles K, excuse me, it has been a lovely pleasure having you on this podcast.
Mm,
I really appreciate the conversation and every piece of information that you've given me up to this point. I will be buying the Rallying Point and reading it myself.
thank you.
And I'll be pushing everyone else to
Thank you.
read the Rallying Point written by Melvin Charles.
Thank you.
Um, any last words?
Um, well, I just want to say thank you to you for uh, hosting this conversation. I think it's necessary, and I think it's so educational for people who don't know about the flag, and for those who do. And for all your listeners to grab a copy of the book, read it, and spread the word, and let people know that we have a flag that we can be proud of, that represents who we are in America, that we are a vital part of the society, that we have made so many contributions over the years, and that Black culture is as important as any other culture here in the United States. And so that's what I would share with your listeners.
Thank you. And that was so well put. And would you like people you can let people know where they can find you online if you would like them to.
Oh, sure. You can find me on the website is Original Black American Heritage Flag .com. And then let's see, we're on Twitter at I don't know all these handles, unfortunately, but if you put in Black American Heritage Flag, we will come up. I will just say that to you.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. And as always, folks, you can find everything versus Mike History related at versusmikehistory.com. Subscribe to the newsletter. And I will see you guys at the next episode. Peace.